Welcome to Goddesses. I'm your host, Blair Minerva. Today on Goddesses, imagine a world where a child's skin turns blue, their breath shallow, their life fading before your eyes, and the only hope lies in a radical, untested surgery. Today, we uncover how one woman's oddness became her genius, battling deafness and discrimination to revolutionize medicine. But what if her greatest fight wasn't saving lives, but fighting for the recognition she deserved? In the sterile operating room at Johns Hopkins Hospital in 1944, time held its breath. 18-month-old Eileen Saxon lay motionless on the surgical table, her tiny body an alarming shade of blue. The rhythmic beep of primitive medical equipment punctuated the tense silence as Dr. Alfred Blalock positioned his scalpel. Behind him stood Dr. Helen Taussig, her keen eyes focused intently on the procedure she had fought so hard to pioneer. No one spoke. They all knew what was at stake, not just this child's life, but the future of pediatric cardiac surgery itself. What drove this remarkable woman to persist, despite a world determined to silence her? How did someone who couldn't fully hear the world around her learn to listen so profoundly to the hearts of dying children that she revolutionized medicine forever? The story begins not in that operating room, but in a quiet Cambridge home where young Helen Taussig first learned that limitations could become innovations. Letters danced mockingly across pages as she struggled with dyslexia. The world grew increasingly muffled after whooping cough damaged her hearing. Yet in this cocoon of sensory challenges, Helen developed an extraordinary gift, the ability to feel what others could only hear. But first, she had to teach herself. Harvard's rejection letter was polite but firm. "We do not admit women." The words stung, but Helen had long since learned to transform pain into purpose. If traditional paths were closed, she would forge new ones. Johns Hopkins School of Medicine accepted her, though many colleagues viewed her presence as an unwelcome intrusion into their masculine domain. In the pediatric ward, Helen found her calling. Tiny patients arrived in their mother's arms, their skin a haunting blue, their lives measured in months or weeks. Tetralogy of Fallot, the doctors called it. Blue baby syndrome, the nurses whispered, a death sentence everyone believed. Where others saw hopelessness, Helen saw patterns. She spent countless hours with her young patients, her sensitive fingers detecting subtle variations in their heartbeats that even stethoscopes couldn't reveal. When her hearing deteriorated further, she learned to use her hands as ears, pressing them against small chests, reading the Morse code of failing hearts. In 1943, Helen approached Dr. Alfred Blalock with an unprecedented proposal. If the blood couldn't flow properly through these babies' malformed hearts, why not create a new pathway? Her colleagues scoffed. Surgery on infant hearts? Impossible. Reckless. The ravings of a woman who couldn't even hear properly. But Helen persisted. She had felt the truth beneath her fingertips. She knew these children's hearts were speaking, and she refused to ignore their plea. That November morning in 1944, as Eileen Saxon's life hung in the balance, Helen's radical theory faced its ultimate test. Dr. Blalock made the first careful incision. The procedure they had designed together, the Blalock-Taussig shunt, would either revolutionize cardiac surgery or end in tragedy. As Helen directed each step, her fingers remained in constant contact with Eileen's chest, monitoring the subtle changes that even machines couldn't detect. When Eileen's skin began to pink up, the room erupted in silent joy. The impossible had become possible. A child deemed hopeless had been given hope. If you're enjoying Goddesses, please like, subscribe, and scan the QR code for our free 7-day email course, Be an Unstoppable Woman. Lead without apology using quiet power tactics from influential females like Oprah, Malala, and RBG. Now, back to the episode. Success brought recognition, but not acceptance. Male colleagues attempted to minimize Helen's role, crediting only Blalock for the breakthrough. Yet she remained focused on what mattered most: saving children. The Blalock-Taussig shunt would go on to save thousands of young lives, but Helen wasn't finished. In 1961, when reports emerged of a new drug called thalidomide causing devastating birth defects in Europe, Helen didn't wait for others to act. She traveled abroad, documented the evidence, and launched a fierce campaign to keep the drug out of American markets. Her testimony before Congress proved decisive. Once again, her ability to see what others missed saved countless lives. Helen's greatest gift wasn't just her medical brilliance. It was her capacity to transform perceived weaknesses into extraordinary strengths. Her hearing loss forced her to develop an unprecedented sensitivity to touch. Her dyslexia taught her to observe patterns others overlooked. Her experience as an outsider in medicine gave her the courage to challenge conventional wisdom. Today, pediatric cardiac surgery saves millions of lives worldwide. Every successful operation carries an echo of that first breakthrough in 1944. Every child who survives a congenital heart defect owes a debt to a woman who refused to accept impossibility as an answer. What if your own perceived limitations aren't handicaps at all? What if, like Helen Taussig, your greatest challenges are actually gateways to your unique genius? The world doesn't need another person who fits perfectly into its predetermined molds. It needs you, with all your oddities, your struggles, and your distinctive way of seeing things. Your impossible might be different from Helen's, but somewhere in your life, there's a challenge everyone else has deemed hopeless. There's a problem no one else can solve quite the way you can. Your limitations might just be the very tools you need to crack it wide open. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. The question is, what unique perspective do your challenges give you? What can you see that others miss? What different way of listening might just change everything? Remember, Helen Taussig didn't succeed despite her limitations. She succeeded because of them. She learned to listen with her fingers when her ears failed her. What will you learn to do differently? What impossible thing will you make possible? The world is waiting for your unique solution. It's time to start listening with your whole being, just as Helen did. Your perceived weakness might just be your greatest strength in disguise. On the next episode of Goddesses, from one trailblazer to another, Helen Taussig's journey may have ended in triumph, but it was just the beginning for Amelia Earhart. Imagine taking to the skies, defying societal norms and gravity alike, as we explore the life of an icon who left more than just footprints behind. What if I told you her story is not just about adventure, but also about challenging conventions and disappearing into mystery? Don't miss out on the thrilling tale that will change everything you thought you knew about risk-taking and exploration. Coming up next week. Please like, subscribe, and scan the QR code, or follow the pinned link to get our free 7-day email course. Be an unstoppable woman. 7 days, 7 iconic women. Master the art of quiet power, lead without apology, and turn femininity into your greatest weapon. Click the video that just popped up to watch the next one in this series. Or for episode summaries, behind-the-scenes info, and more, go to daily8.com/GOD. Thanks for watching.